Hang on here. See if we can get these guys on the line.
Hello?
Hello, is
Hi,
this
Zach.
hey, is this FS Projekt?
Yes, it's FS Projekt.
Dude, what the fuck is going on, man?
Well, I'm kind of sleepy right now, actually. I woke about 2 hours ago. That is 3 a.m. Moscow time, so it's like, oh my god.
Holy shit, man. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Slamming Red Bulls or drinking coffee?
Green tea, mostly.
Green tea.
Mostly. No Red Bulls for me.
Right
I turned
on.
that page many years ago.
Right on, man. Well, good morning to you and FS. What the fuck is going on in the world of FS Projekt? What are you guys up to, man? What's going on?
So, maybe I should just clarify it right from the beginning. We're not guys, it's just me, because basically FS Projekt is not a band in a traditional sense, because it's just my own independent project, and all the other musicians are session guys whom I invite to help me implement my vision. For example, when I can't play drums or I can't sing, so I hire the guys. They do my bidding. Anyway, what's going on? Currently I'm working on a new EP. Hopefully it'll be out maybe next year, maybe sometime later. Then I'm also engaged in some session work, currently with an Australian project called Prince Charman. I don't know if anybody heard of it, but it's pretty cool, pretty original guy who makes a crossover of different genres, so he employs me as a session bass player, guitar player, producer. So that's what I do for him. So basically that's it for now.
Wow, man, that's fucking insane. I didn't know that it was a one-man band. I can't believe it's just you that's doing all that fucking music, man.
Yeah, so basically I'm doing everything. The only things I don't do is that I don't sing and I don't play drums, but I actually arrange all these parts. I write all the lyrics, I arrange all the vocal lines, all the stuff pertaining to the composition, to the arrangement. It's me.
That's amazing, man. So how long have you been doing this, and exactly how did it get started?
What do you mean, like FS Projekt or just heavy music?
Yeah, hell, how long have you been playing heavy music?
Well, I came, not exactly came, I was introduced to this world of heavy shit, which changed my life forever in 1996 by my cousin, by my elder cousin. So, like from 1996 to 2000 maybe, I recognized and listened only to Metallica. Like Metallica was the band, Metallica was everything. So, and apart from most people, I'm actually the guy who loves Load and Reload and considers these albums the pinnacle of their creativity. Anyway,
I like them too, man. I think those are good albums.
Yeah.
I like everything
anyway,
that they've done, pretty much, except for, I don't know, I'm trying to fucking listen to Saint Anger, but there's a couple songs on there that I do kind of like, but...
Saint Anger is okay, you know, like Death Magnetic and the latest album, those are fucking abominations. I fucking hate them.
Oh, really? You don't like the new album?
I don't like the new album, really, not because I'm sort of like, oh no, they sold out, oh they're so, no. I'm well past that in judging on the... trying to assess anybody's material. I'm just I listened to it and I just thought, oh my god, these guys, they're fucking repeating themselves. And it was better when James was drinking all the time, because he was angry, and sort of his lyrics and his attitude when he recorded stuff, his like delivery, it was way more...
I can agree with that, man. Definitely, for sure. The drinking and the anger and everything, I do kind of miss that.
For example, you know, when I was still at school, a mate of mine, he gave me this tape. There were still tapes there for you, just like young ones who don't know anything. There were tapes back then, at the end of the 90s. Yeah, and that was cool. So, he gave me a tape, and there was this live show of Metallica recorded in Portugal, and there they were like trashed. They were completely drunk, and like it was awful, and their playing was awful, everything was awful, but still it had that, that certain degree of honesty in their performance. And the last album, it just didn't speak to me in any way. I couldn't relate to it in any way, because yeah, it's powerful, like all the tracks are like pumped up, and everything's, well,
yeah,
very violent, but it's not about even the soul. It's about the way things are composed. It's like these guys are trying to sort of repeat their Master of Puppets, so maybe Injustice for All successes. But I don't think I don't think it's what is needed actually in 2000s anymore. So those albums were pretty cool, but well, guys, it would be better if you just stopped playing. Because, I really like the bands like 3 Inches of Blood, for example. I love this Canadian band, and I love the fact that they disbanded. Because they, in my opinion, they recorded like 3-4 awesome albums. And then when they understood that they can't do anything more, so they just stopped. Because I really hate bands which become these like label whores, because they're bound by contracts and they have to record stuff.
Yeah, totally. Man.
Yeah, so, and I forgot your question.
Oh, I don't even know. Going back to Metallica, though, you were telling me about that, about them being drunk. It reminded me. Recently, I watched the Cunning Stunts DVD, which I've never actually watched that, but I remember like the Binge and Purge and like the other stuff. They're all drunk as fuck, fucking crazy, but. I don't know. I for some reason I never thought that the Cunning Stunts DVD would be cool like that too, but it's actually really good because they're fucking completely wasted on that too. And when they're playing fucking Nothing Else Matters, it's funny because he was like fucking, he's so drunk, he's like trying to yell the song lyrics. Well, instead of like singing it, he's like fucking yelling it because he's fucking drunk, and you can tell like but it's kind of fucked up, but it's funny too at the same time, and it's kind of cool because it's like it's real, It's like I don't know.
Yeah, because it's real raw emotion, and like today, especially in music, that's why I don't go to shows and anymore, because well, first of all, I have just to conserve all the money I can just for my creativity, because every penny counts. But it's all about this professionalism just driven to extremes, because people don't forgive the listeners. They don't forgive mistakes, but everybody fucks up on stage to this or that extent. Yeah. And this is what makes any live performance special. This is what makes it human, because otherwise, what's the point? You can just play an MP3, which is perfect, or any track, and everything's fine. So it's like that. And back in the days of Binge and Purge and all the Cunning Stunts, well, those shows were cool, because bands back then, they really tried to not outdo themselves, but they tried to provide some really original content. Like, for example, I remember Slipknot's Disaster Pieces. Oh my god. Mm-hmm. When I first saw that DVD, it was a game changer for me in terms of how I perceived music visually.
Hell yeah. I saw them on that tour, man. It was fucking insane.
Oh, great. It was both scary. It was really scary shit, because I've just graduated from high school and just entered my university. And it was scary as shit, and at the same time it was like, oh my god, it's so like intense, it's so metal, so it's so like challenging, like a middle finger to the world, like I don't give a shit about you.
Hell yeah.
So, and all in all, I can say that for me, for example, despite the fact that my music currently is about elves, dragons, and all that, stuff related to the genre, to a broad genre of romanticism in music. I started off as a guy listening to alternative and new metal, basically, because after Metallica, there came new metal like Slipknot, Mudvayne, Limp Bizkit, Papa Roach, whatever. So I still love that music, and maybe it shows in some of my current music, in how I arrange it, how I compose it. So it was like, it was great. And for me, that time, the end of the 90s, the beginning of the 2000s, it was the greatest period in terms of music. Because some people, you know, they worship the 80s, the 70s, the early 90s. For me, it's the late 90s and the beginning of the 2000s.
Yeah, I grew up in the 80s and got into it in the 80s, but it was the 90s, like, was when I was going to high school, so that's, like, when I really got to get out and experience it and go to a lot of the shows and see what it was really about. And in my opinion, there's a lot of great music that came out in the 90s. I mean, fucking, that's when Pantera and Slayer and fucking Sepultura and all that shit was really fucking, like, making a fucking statement, you know?
Yeah, it was a statement, and it was like, but unfortunately, you know, the 90s hype about and around heavy music, it sort of resulted, in a certain extent, in the fact that heavy music became more mainstream, became a bit more mainstream, less underground. It adopted all later on with the development of the internet and the social media, it adopted all these social marketing, social media marketing mechanisms, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think that's particularly cool.
Well, let me ask you about your influences. Like, what kind of bands would you say really influenced you to do what you do?
Well, to do what I do, like, to start all, well, first of all, it was Metallica, of course, and James Hetfield as a guitar player. Because, you know, his image, his persona, his, you know, charisma, to a certain extent, I just wanted to be like him. Then it was, of course, Papa Roach and their guitarist Jerry Horton, because I don't know, I just like the style. And I mean, I don't mean the shit that Papa Roach turned into right now. I mean the Papa Roach from the Infest era, when they were, like, really angry, really awesome, and really honest. And then, of course, well, there were many bands, because I can say I still love this band, like 36 Crazy Fists from Alaska. And, but the game changer for me, if it comes to what I'm doing now, was Blind Guardian. Blind Guardian and their Nightfall in Middle-earth. I'm a huge Tolkien fan, I'm a huge fantasy fan, so I consume as many fantasy books as I can just lay my hands on. So for me, it was a game changer. I heard it, let's see, some time in 2005, maybe 2004. A friend of mine, a mate of mine, he gave me sort of an MP3 compilation CD, and amongst other things, there was this album there, Blind Guardian, Nightfall in Middle-earth, and it was like, you know, it was an eye-opener. I just said, oh my god, this is what I want to do, because at that time I was already playing in my first band, and it was like a totally amateurish thing, because we were just three guys who came together, decided to play music. We were just mixing, like, metal, alternative, punk, whatever. We had absolutely different tastes in music, so we didn't know shit about playing instruments. We knew nothing, so, and we were just having a good time, and that was cool. But when I listened to Blind Guardian, that was the time when I understood that this is the kind of music I want to actually dedicate my life to.
I got a question from the chat room, which is sort of similar to what I asked you, but maybe it goes more in depth. Grace, DJ Thunderous, she wants to know, what made you decide to get into music?
What made me decide to get into music? Well, you know, the story was, I've already told you that it was my brother, it was my elder cousin who introduced me to the world of heavy music in 1996. So, at first I was just listening to this stuff, and I really liked it. Some things were even scary for me, like Ride the Lightning, the Call of Cthulhu. It was like, oh my god, it gave me the creeps. I remember turning it on and playing Diablo, the first game, when it was really, when Diablo was a cool game, together with that Ride the Lightning stuff, and it was creepy and scary, etc. Then, as a huge Metallica fan, I bought this CD with a Metallica encyclopedia, and amongst other things, there were tabs there. Guitar tabs, not like these fancy Guitar Pro tabs nowadays that you can just play, press button and they play the stuff written there. No, but just simple tabs, text tabs. In time I figured out that this is non-conventional way to write music, to write music, like another way of writing music apart from sheet music. So then I decided, okay, let's give it a try. I asked my parents to get me a guitar for my birthday. They got me my first classical guitar, so I started playing immediately. The first thing I started learning on it was Master of Puppets. And then it grew into sort of passion, into sort of, you know, like self-therapy when I was, basically every evening I came back from the university. I had late classes there. I took the guitar and I like spent maybe from half an hour to an hour with it, and it was like every day. Soon I understood that I just can't go on without getting a daily fix of guitar playing. So eventually I started writing some of my own stuff. At least I started trying to write some of my own stuff. And then I went to some guitar teachers, etc., etc. Basically, you know, it was very organic for me. It wasn't like I was trying to impress some girls or to get the girl or to become more popular at school or anywhere. It was like it was something within me. It was something within me, and and I've always been a creative person, because before music, I was always drawing something. I was always like sculpting something, whatever. So that's it, maybe.
Right on, man. I got another question from the chat room, and I'm not sure if this guy, I don't know what he's talking about. He says, "What is the metal scene like in Australia?" And you're from Moscow, Russia, not Australia, so I don't know.
I know something about Australia because actually when we're talking about my session musical activities, I'm working with another Russian guy, but he currently resides in Australia, in Melbourne. So his name is Mike Trubetskov from EOL Studios. He's a mixing and mastering engineer. So if any of you guys who are listening to this, you're in a band and you're in Australia and you want, or even not in Australia, and you want some really cool mixes, you check it out. Just type EOL Studios at Facebook and check his studio. He's a really cool guy to work with. Anyway, okay, this is ad time. So in Australia, as far as I know, as far as he told me, they're all about indie music. They're all about indie music, like indie rock or something like that. For example, this guy, Prince Sherman, you can also check him out on Bandcamp, on Reverb Nation. He's a very interesting guy. He's like taking the vibe of the 70s and the 80s, trying to mix it with some tribal stuff. He's very much into, you know, like those conspiracy theories, like aliens, etc., etc. So he's creating like a very interesting cocktail from this. Well, as far as I know, but you know, from what I've been hearing from people throughout all my life in terms of metal is more or less the same everywhere, because nowadays it's like you can find any genre in any country, basically. Because, for example, if you take Moscow, you can think of the most bizarre, of the most weird, of the most, like, insane genre, of the most insane subgenre. There will be a band playing this stuff here. They may not be big, they may not be well known, but there will be such a band. So I hope this answers the question about Australian music. I don't know.
Well, I also wanted to ask you, what is the local scene like in Moscow, Russia?
Well, in Moscow, Russia, let's see. Again, whatever you want, you will find here. You want djent, they have djent. You want groove metal, they have groove metal. You want traditional new metal or alternative, you'll find it here. They love punk here. They adore punk here. Thrash metal, death metal, whatever. For example, among the bands I know, like those guys that I interact with, for example, Break Me Completely. Great band playing some really, I don't know if this term is applicable, but I guess everything goes when we're talking about music. It's like they play some progressive djent, and it's pretty cool. So you can find basically whatever you want. Of course, there is also this sort of very local phenomenon like what they call Ruski rock. It means Russian rock. Although there isn't, it's not that heavy to talk about. So it's like a very very local sort of national thing. So, but again, in terms of heavy scene, you can find whatever you want here.
Hell yeah,
we have
man.
big bands. I mean, big bands like I mean, in the national sense, like who tour across country, etc., etc. I don't know if they're known outside Russia. I just don't monitor the situation because you know, there is only as much time as I can spare on this stuff because it's always either I'm working on my music or just working as a session musician or just. And yeah, unfortunately, I still have to go to some jobs to earn money just to make the cogs of FS Projekt work and roll and move.
Hell yeah, dude. Speaking of FS Projekt, how did you come up with the band name itself, man? What's that about?
Well, despite the fact that, well, it's a project and I have a producer. He's also my singer. His name is Oleg Mishin. He's a renowned Russian musician, both in terms of metal and in terms of classical music, because he has classical musical education, and he's like, you know, a great person to work with. And when we were discussing the name for this endeavor, he told me, okay, you have to come up with a name which would represent you the best and represent your status as a project the best and wouldn't be attached to any particular style of music. So there was no way I could name it like the Eye of Sauron 275 or, you know, like dwarves raping elves or whatever, because it's not about that. So initially I thought, okay, my name is Sergey, my family name is Fomin, so SF, FS, okay, let's make it FS, because in Russian it doesn't matter which goes first, either the surname and then the name or the surname. So I decided, okay, let's make it FS, and then let's make it a project, because this is a project, it's not a band, it's not that I'm not playing live, and I don't have a permanent lineup, it's just all about me and what I am doing. So it's like that.
Do you have any plans of actually playing live, or?
You know, it depends. It depends because basically Oleg and I, we talked about this maybe 2 months ago, and he said, okay, even if you can't afford just to hire all the musicians, you and I, we can play together like a duo, and all the other instruments can go like, at least at the first stage, all the other instruments can just be played just by a computer, no problem. But you know, it all depends on the demand. If people want, because for example, I can't like make Oleg play with me for free. It's bullshit, because for him it's work, so I have to pay him. So, and for this we need to have some fees. It's not like it was back in the days when, you know, there were bands who, in order to get promoted, were willing to play for free and could afford it to play for free. Because, for example, I'm 33 years old. He is like maybe 10 or approximately 10 years my senior. He's got a family he needs to provide for, etc., etc. So you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
man.
It's like if the opportunity comes, I'm always open to it, to any of them.
Fuck yeah, dude! I bet that'd be fucking
cool,
because, man.
You know, because, you know, it's not like people think that actually live gigs are music. Well, I have a very different approach in this respect, because for me, live gigs are a service, are an entertainment service, because music is music when you compose it, arrange it, record it, and then people listen to it. This is music. But when people are going to the show, they're not actually going to listen to music there. They are listening with their eyes, if one can put it this way. They are watching the show, they are drinking, they're socializing. It's basically a social event. It's a social entertainment service, let's put it this way. And services, they are usually rendered for money. So one has to be paid because the amount of preparation that goes into just playing one gig, it's enormous. It's like it's insane. And I have this experience because back in the day before FS Projekt, I used to play. I used to play in some bands, and you know, even at an amateur level, it's if you want something done right, it's like it's backbreaking work. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man. Well, for people out there listening, man, where can they go to find some to get some merch or support the band, or you know, or the project anyway?
Well, in terms of merch, people can always go to me, like on Facebook or whatever. There are always my contacts. They can message me. I answer every message that I see. They can ask, okay, so do you have merch? You would like to get merch? So, and I will tell them. Because, and as far as supporting the band, well, there is always Bandcamp. It's fsprojekt.bandcamp.com. So you can buy my stuff there. You can buy my stuff on iTunes, like Spotify, Amazon MP3. Basically, every digital musical outlet there is, it has my music there.
Oh yeah, man. So for everybody out there listening, just Google search FS Projekt, and you can find everything you need. Right.
Yeah. So. It's all over the place, and I've released like 2 EPs and 4 singles so far, and it's like 10 songs. I know it's not much for 5 years, but I guess it's a lot for an independent project, not backed by any label or anybody.
It's fucking badass, man. Well, brother, I'm about out of questions for you, man. Is there anything else you want to let the people know?
Well, you know, for example, the most commonly asked question, apart from live gigs, is why are you releasing when are you planning to release an LP? Well, this is what people ask me a lot, and I have to say that since it's the 21st century, guys, and LPs are fucking outdated, because with the internet, with the speed and that people consume music, with the sheer amount of music there, EPs and singles are way to go, in my understanding, because it takes less time to make them than an LP, and you can also, you know, you can, it really helps one to correct one's mistakes fast and on a more regular level, more frequently. Because, you know, despite the fact that, okay, this song turned out great, everything's great, there is always something one can tweak some other time, so that's the thing.
Hell yeah.
And, well, guys, what I can say, just first of all, just support your local bands, support underground bands. Don't give a shit about mainstream bands. They have all the support they need. They're all backed up by labels. And I mean like those old bands, because, you know, there is also this question in the metal community all around the world. Why aren't there any new Metallicas, any Nirvanas, any new, at least Horns or whatever, any new really big bands, like bands that would be game changers? Well, because the labels, they don't want to invest into the little guy, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of money to make something work. You know, to support your local scene, go to shows, buy their stuff. Or at least if you don't buy their stuff, if you download it for free, then guys, write reviews, write whatever shit, be positive about this stuff.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, before I let you go, I gotta get you to make a station tag, cool?
Yeah, cool. What would you like me to say?
Say, this is FS Projekt, and you're listening to Metal Devastation Radio, where only the strong survive.
So, I can say it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is FS from FS Projekt. You're listening to Metal Devastation Radio, where only the strong fucking survive.
Fuck yeah, dude. All right, man.
Yeah, well, fuck yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to us. I know it's fucking early there in the fucking morning, man. But what I'm gonna do now is
up. I can go for hours now.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to blast some FS Projekt for these motherfuckers and make them go deaf, all right?
Thank you, man.
All right, man.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers, man. Have a good one.
Cheers, bye.
All right, later, dude. There you have it, folks. Fucking FS Projekt, man. Fucking Moscow, Russia. Fucking 5 a.m. in the fucking morning, dude. That's fucking brutal, man. That motherfucker is fucking crazy, dude. That's fucking cool, dude. Very cool, man. Fucking crank this shit up, motherfuckers. Put your speakers in your fucking windows. Put them in your front lawns. Put them wherever you can to make motherfuckers hear their shit, goddammit. I'm Zach Moonshine. It's the motherfucking Zach Moonshine Show on Metal Devastation fucking radio.
I am alive.